Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Canty, and this is episode 2 of Living Enlightened. Woohoo! I am passionate about helping people discover the ways and means to live their life with love, joy, and authenticity. Most of all, myself. I want to live my life with love, joy, and authenticity. I want to love my life and feel enlivened all the time, regardless of how life is showing up for me. So today we're asking the question, how can we love our life all the time? Is it even possible? Regardless of circumstances, how do we live our passion all the time, regardless of what is showing up in our life? Can we? Let's find out. So we're asking the question, how can we love our life all the time? How do we live our passion all the time, regardless of our circumstances? And I came to the answers to these questions. I won't say the hard way. I think I'm going to say the long way. I came about the answers the long way. I have found myself at different times in life, especially when I was a teenager, young adult, not quite happy, not quite loving life, not quite satisfied inside. And I didn't know why. It felt like it was for no reason. And sometimes I was just bored. Sometimes I was lonely. Sometimes I didn't have enough money, in my opinion, for what I felt like I needed or wanted to do. And sometimes it was my health. I was diagnosed with cancer, cervical cancer, at 26. But it really started out even younger. I grew up with a great family and great friends, a good education. I had everything going for me. And yet, I had this deep feeling of dissatisfaction. You know, I felt like life was, I don't know any other way to say this, but somewhat meaningless. I didn't understand the meaning of life. I couldn't answer the big questions. Why are we here? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing while I'm here? And, my religion, my friends, my family, my professors in college, no one could even point me to the direction to find the answer to these questions. I didn't experience any deep calling for a type of work or career. I didn't find a deep satisfaction in, of course, I was young, but my relationships at the time and my financial situation, and, eventually there would be my health. After experiencing cancer, it just felt like uh, anything could happen for any reason at any time. And it was so random. Life just felt random. And I was a victim to life. And even though I was a victim of mostly pretty good circumstances and situations, I was still a victim. There's that feeling like, well, I'm lucky. When is my luck going to run out? And of course, that's how most of us grow up, right? We're taught that this is how life happens. It's random. It's a series of random events, and we have no control and we have no say in it. And because I grew up Catholic in Catholic grade school and high school and attending Catholic mass several times a week, I was taught that, it's all God's doing, and that we mere humans are subject to God's random will. And for someone like me, and maybe someone like you, it just sucked all the meaning out of life. I just began to question, like, what's the point? And I had no answer. And my family, my religion, my work, my good friends, my good times provided no answers to that kind of questioning. So for me, being diagnosed with cancer at 26, honestly, it was a wake up call to find some meaning in my life before my life ended. I thought I should at least understand something important about living before I died. And I was living in New York City at the time when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I had already planned to move to Los Angeles before I could, schedule surgeries, get a second opinion, all that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, in New York City, the quest to find this meaning in life had already started. I met Marianne Williamson, and she was really speaking on A Course in Miracles back then. I had attended her lectures in a little church. I don't remember where. I feel like it was somewhere midtown or something. Um, I bought A Course in Miracles, and I read a lot of it, but it is proposed to channel Jesus, and at the time, because of my Catholic upbringing, and because I didn't understand what I was taught about the words of Jesus and the New Testament and all these things, I just didn't want much to do with that at that time. But it was a beginning, an opening to this search for the truth about life, for the answers, to my many questions. And when I finally moved to LA, I was talking to somebody, I don't remember, about my situation, and I was guided to go to the Bodhi bookstore, the Bodhi Tree bookstore. I think it was off Melrose, and I would find some books on healing. And that's kind of the first time I'd ever really thought about that, just healing myself. Well, I walked into that bookstore, and it was amazing. It was fascinating. It was had this wonderful energy, and there were crystals and rocks and um, gongs and bowls and chakra flags. It had books on every mysticism, every mystic tradition in Buddhism and Hinduism and Sufism and Kabbalah, New Thought, everything. I had never seen anything like that. And it was completely overwhelming as to what book I should buy. Dorothy was not in Kansas anymore. But the one thing, ah, man, it's amazing how things happen, right? The one thing that stood out for me, I actually think it leapt off the shelf, was, I still have it, Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. And I realized I didn't just want to heal my cancer, I wanted to heal my life. It was so interesting how I heard the title of that book. And the other book that I left with that day was, maybe you guys remember this one, Shakti Gawain's Creative Visualization. Wow. Growing up Catholic, I had no idea what was in those two books, and I was fascinated. And when I read just in the bookstore, the first few paragraphs, the back cover, it just resonated with my heart. I was hearing things that made me think this is so right. This is so true. There are some things that we read or listen to, and we remember the truth of our being. It's a remembrance. It's not that we're learning something new, right? It's it's that we are really remembering something. We're remembering. We're gathering up together. Putting it all together. What we've always known. That's how I felt. So I began reading those books, and one afternoon, a friend of mine came over and she saw these books on my coffee table, and she was like, "Are you into that kind of thing?" And I must have looked pretty dumbfounded before I could answer the question. And she went on to say, "There's a woman down the street who teaches this kind of stuff, and I've always wanted to go. Do you want to go with me?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course. I mean, that's crazy." And we went to an open meditation class with Linda Watson, a Center for Spiritual Living practitioner, with Minister Reverend O.C. Swiss, with Minister O.C. Smith. His church was City of Angels, the Center for Spiritual Living in Los Angeles. I'm going way back now. So I learned meditation and I learned visualization. And, my cancer went from a stage 2 to a stage 1. And I had surgery and I've been cancer free for many, many years since. And, no one can tell me how much of my healing then was caused by um, this idea of healing my life, the visualization and the remembering of the truth of my being. But I know that it was a divine part of my healing. I knew it and I felt it. I had found, granted, it was very new, but this meaning in life. And I had found the meaning in that diagnosis of cancer. And I found something I was passionate about, and I found a community and many communities in so many different ways that expressed these beliefs. So I began attending church at O.C. Smith Center, and I knew right away that I needed to know what Linda knew, what all these people knew, what O.C. Smith knew, what they were saying was just amazing. I felt like I was at home. And I know a lot of you feel that way when you first hear these simple truths. It's like we're home, you know? It resonated with my heart and my soul. I wanted to take classes right away, but they told me, a long story, their center wasn't attached to the other centers. They were independent, and they sent me to Reverend Michael Beckwith Center, the Agape International Center. And I could walk there from where I lived. And I began taking classes right away. And I began for the first time to understand that I am not a victim. I was not a victim of life. We are not victims of our circumstances, but that we came into this life ready and willing to, co-create with source, with spirit, with the divine. In fact, we are the divine expression of God itself. And we came here to be in love, you know, to be in light, to be in joy and in peace and in harmony with all of the things that are happening all around us in the world and in our world. We came here to uh, not casually, but passionately create a life worth living and worth dying for. We came here as this divine expression of spirit itself. And Jesus reminded the Pharisees Doesn't your scripture tell you, ye are gods and children of the Most High? Oh, when I remembered, I'd heard that before. I'd heard that phrase of Jesus, the story of Jesus telling the Pharisees that. But now, man, I remembered, yes, I am a child of the Most High. That's exciting. That was meaningful. So when I was diagnosed, people sometimes don't understand that I didn't have a fear of dying. I had a fear of dying without understanding what living was. And I was driven, that's the only word I can say, by this glimpse of this truth, the light that was shining through this crack of my being. And I took a lot of classes and retreats and workshops. And then I started teaching classes and holding retreats and workshops. All the while, it was dawning on me, this remembrance, the truth of my being, who I am, where I come from, why I'm here. And there was meaning in every breath, in every moment, in every step, in every relationship, in every beginning and every ending, in the good and the bad and the ugly. There was this deep meaning because everything was unfolding to reflect back to me the truth of my being, or sometimes that I was out of alignment with the truth of my being. So I'm going to talk for a moment about, the stages of consciousness because it really relates to where we are in our ability to love our life regardless of how life is showing up, because life is always living itself. Life is always showing up. And how we meet it um, is so very important to our peace, our sense of joy, our sense of peace, our sense of belonging, our sense of happiness, our ability to love our life. So I've kind of talked about this first stage of consciousness, or awareness, we could call it, or self realization. That first stage is being a victim, victim consciousness. We would call it like to me. Why is everything happening to me? We believe, as I had, that we are all victims to everything that happens to us, around us. All of life, in fact, we're victims to. We're victims whether our circumstances are good or bad, or great or terrible. The victim mentality is still the question, though. When will this be taken away? When will the other shoe drop? Why does this always happen to me? It's if I can be so lucky as to have this, then I can be as unlucky as the next guy and have it all taken away. That's the idea, or the state of consciousness that is to me. Life is happening to me. And that second stage of consciousness, or awareness, or spiritual realization, is that I can influence and co-create the events and situations and circumstances and relationships in my life. I can use the law of attraction, the law of manifestation, the practice of creative visualization to create the things that I want to see and experience in my life. It's that I, me, myself, I create, co create the events and the situations. I can affect the outcome of what is happening all around me. So we call that, it's by me. I am now a participant. I'm affecting things. And the third stage is through me. Life happens through me. It's getting interesting now. We give up that idea that I am going to, manipulate and make things happen, to create, to manifest, to um, envision this result, this promotion, this person coming into my life. And instead, we begin to align with the life force energy that is moving through us, the creative intelligence of the universe, and allow it to flow through me into every aspect of my life, which it was doing anyway. But right, it's always doing it. But now our finite mind, our ego, is stepped out of the way a little bit. We're making room for spirit to flow through us. We've stepped out of the way of that perfect flow of life itself. And in this stage, I can be in alignment with everything around me. In this stage, we're still, we become still in meditation. We're moved to do things, the activities in our life, by that inner still voice that guides and directs us. We feel more at ease, flowing in life, in our circumstances, in the events. And the fourth stage is spirit as me. This is when we realize that there is only one, not two, not me and this thing called God or spirit or life or universal intelligence or unlimited creativity. There is only one. There is only this life, this love, this consciousness, this awareness. It is always happening. It is all that is happening. It is source, presence, consciousness that always is and is always what I am. It's such a wonderful place to be because, of course, finally, I mean, we're no longer a victim to anything that's happening. We're not trying to make anything happen or manipulate. We're not working hard, to visualize the promotion or the financial situation to change or the creative energy to come forth, right? We're not surrendering to something outside of ourselves, this universal presence that we have to make room for. Uh, in the other stages, it is recognizing, recognizing, remembering that oneness and wholeness that is always and has always been, has no beginning, no ending, no time, no space. And we know that life, spirit, God is expressing as what appears to be this myriad of things, events, circumstances. But it's one expression. Or maybe we say it's one expressing, one source, one presence. And I am it. It is I. When we're in this place of living enlightened, of unity consciousness, then all that is taking place in our situations, events, circumstances in our life becomes, uh, it just is. It's what's happening now. And we let go of our judgments of whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, happy or sad, fulfilling or not. you know, We're not um, attached, we're not judging, we're flowing in it. Uh, we're not attached to keeping what is the same. We're not attached to changing it or how it changes, but we know it will. We're not reacting to it. We're responding to life with, love and peace and joy and compassion and patience and creativity. All the things that we can imagine are God, these God qualities are just flowing through us because we're not stopping the flow with judgments, attachments, resistance, and reaction. Whatever we're called to do is in response to this flow of life, we'll do it in peace and harmony and joy. That's how we can love our life, regardless of how life is showing up. We stay out of the jar. Okay, that's what my practitioner called it when she read judgments, attachments, reactions, and resistance. Stay out of the jar. When we stay out of judgments, attachments, reactions, and resistance, we are living in ease and grace. We live in that deep connection with everyone and everything that is flowing in and out of our life. It's coming and going. Nothing stays forever. Like the jobs, the situations, the relationships change, they move, they flow. And we're in communion with what is, with the people, the circumstances, and the events. I think that's how I could be diagnosed with cancer again and be with it instead of, there's no resisting, there's no being in fear, there's no being a victim to the circumstances. It's what is this here to show me now? And whatever I need to do, I do. Whatever I can't do, I don't do. It just feels like you're going downstream. You're not paddling upstream because that's struggle. That's frustrating. Last week, I mentioned too that my son had been very sick for a long time, and being with whatever was happening, staying out of judgments, attachments, resistance, and reaction first of all, allowed me to stay healthy myself and to stay centered and grounded for him. As a caregiver for someone who is needs a lot of care and attention, and physically, emotionally is draining, many of you know. And when it's kind of ongoing, we have to stay so clear so that we can do those things that we're called to do. We can um, be with uh, the bills, the doctors, the hospitals, the medications, the changes, the problems that come up, the challenges, the chronic stress of being on high alert. We If you're in those situations in your life, whether it's a new job or the situation where you've lost a job and bills are piling up, to stay clear, to stay in that open, creative, loving space means that we have to do things differently than the world is telling us to do. The world is saying, don't just sit there, do something. But we're really called, and I mean really called, to be still and know the truth of our being, so that in a moment, when I come out of this meditation, out of this open, empty space of infinite possibilities, then the one possibility that I need to resolve my situation comes to me in a word from a friend or a doctor, or I open a book, or I see it on a website. It's like, that's what I need to do right now. That's it. There's a flow and a grace and a harmony. We can, I won't say love our life in that situation, but we can be in harmony and flow. In other words, we're not resisting our life in those high stress situations. Because, as you can imagine, when things are going well in your life, you get the promotion, your relationship is in flow state, your finances are beautifully under control, the car is working beautifully, the flowers are blooming in your garden, your teenager's speaking to you. When things are going well, isn't it easy to be in this flow state? A state of gratitude, and the state that you feel like anything is possible, right? Those are wonderful times that are reminders of what really almost all of life is meant to feel like. But then the tax bill comes and you don't have the money, say, okay, I don't have the money saved for it. When the relationship unexpectedly ends, when the car breaks down, when you're unceremoniously fired from a job that you thought you were doing great in, right? Or that unexpected diagnosis for yourself or a loved one, that's when our practices of gratitude, of meditation, of remembering the truth of our being, we sink into our practices to remind us. We reach out to the support group, the prayer partner, the vision group, those who can help us see past our judgments or our attachments to the situation. And we move into the creative space of flow and harmony. Life is always living itself. Hurricanes are coming through. That's just weather being itself. It's being weather. It's dumping rain where it wants to dump it, and it's sucking it out of the rivers and moving the clouds into where it needs to go. And, it is what it is. But we can be who we are during all of it. We're reminded that we're not victims to any sense of randomness of life, but we see the creative aspect of life. Have you ever looked back at those periods in your life where you've lost, the job you thought was perfect? Or like for me, when my son was really sick, and it becomes one of those, the most empowering times in your life, because something shifts in the fundamental way you look at life, especially when you move into harmony. You have that shift, that vision. When my son was sick, we became so close, and we have such a unique relationship in a way that I imagine many parents and children don't necessarily get to, which has continued into our adult relationship. And of course, I've already mentioned being diagnosed with cancer and how that shifted my life into, just having this passion and this remembrance of love, of God, of spirit, of wholeness and oneness. So when we know that regardless of how life is showing up, that we can expect that there is something amazing in it. We can't see it right now, believe me. There's no point sometimes in even trying to see the gift in it. But what we can do is know that there will be a moment, and this too shall pass. And we can look back and say, ah, man, that was crazy. That was wild. And I learned so much. It was awesome. I will never be the same. I have grown. I have changed. I can love my life even more now in this moment because of that, right? We have grown. We have kind of cracked open another level of understanding, of remembrance. So we remember we are in the flow of life. We are the flow of life. We are life expressing as flow. So, in my book, Living Enlightened, The Joy of Integrating Spirit, Mind, and Body, which is out now on Amazon, it really explains the practical spirituality, the principles and the practices that I used, and really there are things that came to me in those moments that I had deep, deep clarity. And it was just like I was guided and directed from within towards this inner truth, this inner knowing, so that I could bring um, that light, that power, that clarity, the creativity into whatever I was experiencing, the good, the bad, the ugly, the enlightened. The principles and practices that are in my book are the ways that I learned to integrate spirit, mind, and body so that I felt connected, to the present moment. I felt connected to that which is always greater than me, and yet that which is always flowing through me, and that which is flowing in my life as all these situations and events and circumstances. It was this blissful harmony of spirit, mind, and body integrated. So that's how I came to be able to love my life and live my passion. I can feel and sense the power and the presence, the unlimited creativity of Source flowing through me as me in my life and in every situation and event. I feel guided and directed, and it feels like catching that wave, the perfect wave on the surfboard. It feels like hitting the perfect golf ball, as someone recently mentioned to me. It feels easy, it's effortless. And yet, I'm clearly telling you about the effort that it took me to get to this place. And daily, I take time and energy to sink back into this truth of my being so that I can integrate spirit, mind, and body and be in flow with the body of affairs in my life. I can love my life regardless of how life is showing up, and I could live my passion, feeling whole in each and every moment. And I want that for you. Let me know where you are in your journey. Let me know about where you are in the stages of consciousness, or if you want to know more about these stages of awareness or stages of consciousness, or how to love your life under the situation that you find yourself in, just reach out to me at elizabeth@elizabethcanty.com. You can check out my website for more information or leave a response here. And I'll definitely get back to you. I would love to hear from you. I hope you get a chance to check out my book. It's on Amazon. I'll post a link below in the notes if you'd like to order it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Elizabeth Canty, and this is Living Enlightened. Join me every week for a new insight into how we can love our life and live our passion and integrate spirit, mind, and body. Be sure and hit the like and subscribe button. And if you really enjoyed it, share it with a friend. Maybe they need to love their life a little bit more. Remember to laugh, love, and live enlightened every day.